Shalom Sadiqim. Welcome to Jerusalem Hebrew's weekly reading of the first 3 verses of each week's Torah portion. This week's Torah portion is what we call a double parashah. It is the parashah of 2 weeks put together in one, and that is due to certain variations in the Hebrew calendar. You can find this week's Torah portion in Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 9, through chapter 31, verse 30. We will begin in chapter 29, verse 9. Atem, Nitzavim, Hayam, Kullechem, Lifne, Adonai, Elohechem, Rashechem. Notice the aleph here is not pronounced. The reason it's not pronounced is because there is no vowel associated with it in this word, although it is part of the root of the word. Rashechem. Shiv Bechem. Ziknechem. Weshetarechem. Kol. Don't confuse it with the more common form of this word, kol. There is a difference between kol and kol. It's frequently, these two vowels are pronounced the same. Kol, and not kol. Kol, ish, Yisrael. You should hear a definite Y sound at the beginning. Yisrael. Let's read it again. You can feel free to follow in the transliteration below the Hebrew text or follow along in the Hebrew text. If you're following along in the transliteration, take note of which syllables are accented in the different words. That will help you avoid confusing and jarring mispronunciations. So let's continue. Atem Nitzavim Hayam Kullechem Lifne Adonai Elohechem Rashechem Shiv Bechem Ziknechem Weshetarechem Kol Ish Yisrael. One more time at a little bit more of a natural pace. Atem Nitzavim Hayam Kullechem Lifne Adonai Elohechem Rashechem Shipechem Zipnechem Weshetarechem Kol Ish Yisrael. Pasuk haba. Next pasuk. Next verse. Papechem. Repeat after me. Papechem. This is a T sound, which is different from a regular T sound in English. That's why we have a dot under it in the transliteration. So the letter P is supposed to make a distinct sound, different from the letter Tal. Tal is made more similarly to a English T, which is the tip of your tongue near the back of your upper front teeth, whereas P, your tongue is slightly cupped and the contact is a little bit further back in the roof of your mouth, not as close to your 2 upper front teeth. And you also constrict your throat just slightly when you do so. Papechem, Neshechem, Wa-Yelekh, Asher, Beqerev, Ma Hanacha, Me Hurtev, Isacha, Ad. This is a TH like in the word they or them, not a TH like in the word think or three. That is why we put a dot under the D in the transliteration. Az, sho'ev, sho'ev, mimecha, mimecha. Let's read it again. Papechem, neshechem, wagircha, asher, baqareb, ma'anecha, mehutlev, isacha, ad, sho'ev, mimecha. One more time and a little bit more of a natural pace. Papechem, neshechem, wagircha, asher, بقارب ما حناخو محطب عساخو عذ شئب مماخو. Pasuk haba, the next pasuk. The avracha. This could be a little bit of a challenging word to pronounce. Notice how many syllables there are to make sure you're pronouncing it correctly, each syllable distinctly. La is one syllable. A shava, the colon-shaped symbol under the first letter, a shava is always pronounced as a short vowel when it's at the beginning of a word, when it's under the first letter in a word. Most of the time it's a short eh, sometimes it's a short variation. Because here the shva is coming immediately before a guttural letter, the ayin, therefore it adopts the vowel of the ayin, but in a shorter form. So la, la, not la, but la, la, av, la, av. That's 2 syllables. Re, that's 3 syllables. Kha, that's 4 syllables. La, av, rakha. When you have 2 shavas in a row, 2 of these colon symbols in a row, the first one is silent. The second one is a sounded shava. La'avracha, la'avracha, la'avracha. Bivrith, bivrith. Adonai, Adonai. Elohecha, Elohecha. Uv'alafer, uv'alafer. Asher, Asher. Adonai, Adonai. Elohecha, Elohecha. Kereth, Kereth. Immecha, Immecha. Hayyam, Hayyam. Let's read it again. La'avrecha bivrith Adonai Elohecha uv'alafer asher Adonai Elohecha kereth immecha hayyam. And one more time at a little bit more of a natural pace. La'avrecha bivrith Adonai Elohecha uv'alafer Asher Adonai Elohecha kereth immecha hayyam. And now for our key words of this week's Torah portion, selected from the first 3 verses of this week's Torah portion, parashah Nitzavim. Our first key word is shivtechem. It's composed of 2 words, essentially. Shevet. Shevet refers to a scepter, but it is also the term, the more common term, for a tribe. Literally, however, it is in reference to a scepter or a rod of authority. And the chem is a plural second person suffix, your. So it's, in English, it might be something like y'all's, y'all's tribes. Shiv lechem, shiv lechem. The A lets you know that it's plural of y'all's. Wa-Ghercha, 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 and your immigrants. It's technically singular, but often in the Bible, singulars are used in reference to an entire category rather than in reference to individuals. It depends on the context, just as sometimes plurals are used even in reference to singular individuals or things, right? So that's a tricky aspect of the Hebrew language, that a speaker of a non-Semitic language, someone who does not know any Semitic languages, may find kind of unusual or difficult to wrap their mind around. So ger is the term that refers to immigrants or migrants. It's used to refer to newcomers. It is the term that is most often translated as convert in the context of one who joins the people of Israel through conversion to Judaism. Although conversion is not an accurate translation of this word, it's also not accurate to translate it as a stranger, as is usually done in Christian translations. Sojourner is a bit closer, not necessarily an incorrect translation, but it's kind of a vague meaning. Most people don't really know what is entailed. Everybody sojourns somewhere. The concept is rather that this is a newcomer to a location, someone who has immigrated, migrated from one place to another, and is talking about within their life, not their ancestors. Everybody has descended from someone or some people that immigrated from somewhere. So this is not talking about their ancestries per se. It's talking about that individual. In English, we would normally call this an immigrant. The wa, or ve in modern Hebrew, the wa is and, gher is immigrant, and the cha is singular, your. So it does not specifically mean someone of non-Israelite ancestry, but usually that is who it's referring to in the Bible. This is the same exact word that's used to describe Abraham while he was in Egypt, and also the Israelites while they were in Egypt. And it does not mean that they converted to the Egyptian religion per se. Number 3, the avracha. The lamed prefix, the la, means 2 or 4. Avar, the root word avar, means to pass over or to cross over. It's the same root word as ivri, which gets translated to English as Hebrew. There's actually no H in the word Hebrew in the Hebrew language. There is an H in the Hebrew language, but not in the word Hebrew. It's a letter that does not have an equivalent to English, so it got represented with the letter H. Not the best representation. So ivri, you can see the commonality here. Ein vet resh, ein vet resh. It means to cross over or to pass over. Right? So this is used in the verse in this week's Torah portion that refers to how the children of Israel and also those who had joined them from non-Israelite ancestry had transitioned, had crossed over into the covenant of Torah when God made Israel officially a nation and his people according to the law of Moses. All right? So la'avracha, if anything, this is closer to a term for conversion, although transition, I think, is a better translation. To pass over. Number 4, bivrith, bivrith. The bet prefix means in, at, with, through. Depends on the context. It's probably the most flexible preposition prefix that exists in Hebrew. It doesn't mean just any preposition, but there are several English prepositions that could reliably translate the bet prefix. It depends on context what makes most sense. Sometimes more than one option actually makes sense. Bivrith. The vrith part is covenant. Covenant. So bivrith means into the covenant. There's not really a V here, but if you look in the verse where it appears in this week's Torah portion, you will see that it's followed by a definite noun, a proper noun. So that functions like the. Proper nouns have inherent these, even without saying the. And that's even in English. Bivrith, into the covenant, referring to the covenant of Torah between God and Israel. Number 5, uv all of and into his oath. So the u means and, the Vet means in, so an in or an into. Allah, not with a dagesh, not with a shadda if it would be Arabic. So it's not the same as the name Allah. Although I learned recently that there may be a distant connection between the two terms. That's for another video. So in Hebrew, Allah is usually written with two lameds, or it would have a dagesh, a dot in the middle. This word does not have that. So Allah, it's a feminine word. That's why the hey at the end turns into a tav when you add a suffix. This possessive suffix means his. So uv and into Allah, oath, his. So the order of the possessive pronouns is different from how you would say it in English. In Hebrew, it would be like saying an into oath of his, right? I.e., and into his oath. And it refers to not per se a curse, although this term is often used in the Bible to refer to a curse. But the idea of it referring to a curse is more by extension. The more straightforward meaning of the word is to be liable or accountable to something. So that could be good or bad, depends on the context. It's often negative in the Bible, but in this case, it's not a curse per se. And this is distinct from the term that's used for curse later in the book of, in the following chapters in the book of Deuteronomy. That would be halallah, halallah. All right, u'alatho, and into his oath. So that concludes our reading of the first 3 verses of this week's Torah portion and its keywords. Feel free to subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/authentic Torah. That's authentic Torah. Shabbat shalom.